We'll start with the invocation, please. If you'll please stand.
Almighty God, we welcome you among us today and celebrate the gift of life that you have lavished upon each of us. We ask that you open our ears so that we may hear your voice. Open our minds so that we may receive your eternal wisdom. Open our spirits so that we may know your leadership and guidance. And open our hearts so that we may receive your wonderful love. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're over there.
Next item is the approval of the final agenda.
Move to approve the final agenda.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, just a sort of a parliamentary inquiry question. Will there be an opportunity after public comment for us to address some of the issues that probably will come up during the public comment period? What's your strategy in terms of how we'll fit that into our program today?
I thought about that, and since it's not on the agenda, what we'll do is if you wish to bring it up under your items, bring it up then, and we can discuss it.
Are we concerned that the folks in the audience will then have to wait like an hour and a half before we get to the items?
It doesn't look like an hour and a half's worth of meeting here to me, so I don't think it's going to take that long, to be honest with you.
Okay.
All right with everyone? Any further discussion? Any objection? The motion carries. Next item is public comment. Madam Clerk.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. First request is from Mary Torgerson. Will be followed by Marty Harity.
Morning.
Morning.
My name is Mary Torgerson. I'm a resident of Fort Myers Beach, and I live on Palermo Circle.
Or you can pull that down if you want. Yeah, you're fine.
I just didn't want to break the rules.
No. As long as you're apart from everybody, that's fine.
2 blocks from the approved Margaritaville project. On July 8th, we learned the 2nd District Court of Appeals had denied Chris Patton's appeal. Only to be disheartened on July 9th, when Chris Patton had filed yet another lawsuit. I can share my feelings for hours on how I feel she is holding our neighborhood, one she proclaims to be protecting, hostage. She's abusing every resident, homeowner, business owner, and taxpayer on the island in the effort to derail Margaritaville. Come today with letters and emails and texts from others. I know that asking for all of these to be read into record is time-consuming. Therefore, I've submitted them to you via email. Read a portion of each. We stand up to these ridiculous tactics that are hurting our town's progress and the chance to bring additional employment opportunities while supporting the surrounding businesses. Kathleen Hayes. I thought that was for me. As taxpayers, we are concerned about the amount of money which was needed to be used to fight these frivolous lawsuits. Encourage the town of Fort Myers Beach, in partnership with TPI, to aggressively pursue whatever legal action or other recourse possible to recoup legal fees and hopefully finally end this fiasco once and for all. Myself and Sharon Perry. At it with both barrels firing, and do whatever you can possibly do to stop this madness, please. Christy Hennessy. I believe most people following this drama agree the lawsuit is frivolous and only intended to delay the TPI Margaritaville development based on a personal agenda. Brooke Hockett. I urge you to fight this newest lawsuit to the maximum and to such a degree that decision rendered will convince the plaintiff and her financial benefactor not appeal or attempt to file another new frivolous lawsuit. Ron and Jan Fleming. TPI Margaritaville project will, as I assure you agree, be an extreme positive for our entire community. Gregory Skasny. These baseless lawsuits and erroneous claims are nothing more than all tactics, and the people of Fort Myers Beach deserve better. Matthew Christensen. Please fight for our island and its future. Don and Brian Thomas. This has gone on way too long. The town was sued numerous times for supposedly violating the comp plan. Now, since they lost all suits based on that fallacy, They're saying the comp plan, which they claim was violated, is unconstitutional. Wes Parker. Council must support the staff in defense and perhaps take action that would preempt future suits. McGinn. Please allow this great resort to be built in our community. We have been waiting 3 years now. Even Kim Tatro. My 11-year-old daughter deserves to be raised in a safe town. Rosanna Riley. I'm asking the council to make a motion to authorize the town attorney and manager aggressively defend the current suit and take offensive action against the plaintiff and any other culpable parties or parties. Shadle.
Are you done? I am. Okay. If you had a few more, I'll let you go, but, okay, next.
Next is a request from Marty Harity, followed by Brian Thomas.
The Honorable.
Well, that's questionable, Mayor. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to speak. My name is Marty Harity, and there's a few things I want to say, and thank you for your service. It's a thankless job a lot of the times, and I know it's sometimes, but I think I've written letters and spoken to all of you about what I'm going to talk about right now, and so I just wanted to kind of reiterate for the record. I believe this council has an opportunity to make the town of Fort Myers Beach one of the premier communities for residents and tourists in all of Southwest Florida. We have a majority of our residents and businesses, along with 100% approval from former city councils, and I think probably this council also, to start redevelopment of our decaying entrance to our town with the building of Margaritaville. But the project continues to be obstructed and delayed by, and I use the word frivolous too, that seems to be the dominant word today, frivolous lawsuits. Next, in addition to these lawsuits, we have a wonderful, wonderful family community that's turning into a town burdened with shootings, murders, stabbings, rapes, drugs, fights, drunkenness, etc., etc., etc. All one has to do is just look at the police reports in the last 18 months and see what's going on in our town. It's sad. The real question today is, what does all this obstruction of progress, which is great for our community with the building of new buildings and hotels and things like that, and all the lawlessness have in common? I can only point to the Lanakai and the owner, Mr. Condelaris. The past 23 years, I have owned and operated the Whale, used to be the Beached Whale. Right? I've watched my sales deteriorate to the point that my partner and I are considering other options for the Whale. It just doesn't make business sense in the face of constant improvement delays with Margaritaville and the continued increase in crime on our block to stay the course, especially if nothing is going to change. I'm asking this council to do whatever it takes to stop these lawsuits and, as importantly, put a stop to the lawlessness at the Lanakai. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next request is from Brian Thomas, followed by Angela Dieters. Right up there.
All right, good morning. So my name is Brian Thomas. I'll be very brief today. My issue is one of, and concern is one of safety. We talk about this a lot on our island. You know, we spend a lot of time on this island concerned about things that are very important. You know, streetlights, turtles, moon walkovers, building a building for showers and laundry for people that are in the back bay in a boat. I can't believe that's any more important than life safety. And yet we have a property on this island that has hundreds and hundreds of calls regarding safety. Yet we're told as residents that the town and the town council has no authority over that. That's the men in green and white, okay? So my question is, how do we engage the men in green and white, or the men and women in green and white, to help us with this eyesore? We've been here since November of 16, and we love this place, and we want to see it continue. I'd like to see development, but that's not what I'm about today. I'm about safety and safety alone. And I urge the council to please do everything you can within your means to increase safety on our island. You know, if I have to hear one more time that the location in question is a longstanding citizen, mobbed up, lots of money, very litigious, is a bully. Until we're going to take action as a community and a residents and a council and a town to do something, it will never change. The only thing that will change is we'll further deteriorate here from a business standpoint, from a way of life, from a community. Thank you. Thank you.
Next request is from Angela Dieters, followed by Dawn Thomas.
Good morning, Town Council. My name is Angela Dieters, and I have loved Fort Myers Beach since I drove across the bridge in 2015. My experience was like being struck by lightning in the best kind of way. I knew I was home. I have lived on Fort Myers Beach full-time on Matanzas Street since June of 2018. I sell and manage real estate here and I'm committed to contributing to and supporting this island in flourishing. The most endearing thing about this community is its carefree island spirit. There's a deep sense of family welcome, and it is palpable to everyone that visits. One thing, however, that has always troubled me is the way this community turns a blind eye to the culture of extreme lawlessness at Atlantic High. It occurs as a sharp contrast to the values of this wonderful paradise. I've never understood why the community accepts this. Why do we accept the need for sheriff vehicles posted permanently outside the Atlantic High? Why do we accept the need for a new sheriff satellite office just a stone's throw away? Why do we accept vastly disproportionate police and other emergency calls to the Atlantic High as compared to each and every business on this island? Why is this really never addressed? What needs to happen at the Atlantic High before serious action is taken? Why does the Atlantic High continually proceed with immunity? I truly don't understand. I actually searched the town's website last night, seeing if there was a mission or vision statement. I wanted to make sure that I was concerned, that my concerns were congruent with what the town was committed to. What I found was in 2014, the mission statement. The town shall work cooperatively and collaboratively with its citizens, businesses, organizations, and other governments to increase public safety, enhance our national environment, cultural amenities in a professional and fiscally responsible manner and consistent with regulations. As town council members, I know you care deeply and want the very best for our community. I know that there's a solution, but it's time to really go to the source once and for all. Let's address it at the Atlantic High. Get back to what we say that we're committed to. Very much.
Dawn Thomas is the next speaker, followed by Ellen Vaughn.
Morning.
Morning.
My name is Dawn Thomas, and I reside at 263 Palermo Circle. And I'm coming forward today to discuss my issues with a menacing and unsafe neighbor, the Lani Kai Resort. My neighbor, the Lani Kai Resort, is located 1,500 feet from my home. Since January 1st of 2019, my neighbor has had 1,345 Lee County Sheriff calls. These calls range from battery, sexual assault, grand theft, indecent exposure, lewd and lascivious behavior, domestic violence, narcotics, wanted criminals, hit and run, stabbings, and now homicide. We walk by our neighbor each day. We see the vomit, the garbage, used drug paraphernalia along the community path. We encounter fist fights, people so intoxicated they cannot stand and in fact fall in front of us passed out. We watch the police arrest numerous people and deal with aggravated drunks. When we drive home at night, we encounter loud groups of disorderly and loud persons spilling from the parking lot of the Lani Kai into Estero Boulevard. Would you want the Lani Kai as your neighbor? Would you send your children and your guests out alone to venture to the beach and pass by this neighbor? I emailed you all copies of a report that shows the Lani Kai as it compares to other large resorts on our beach. Over 75% of the island and Lee County Sheriff resources are used to respond to this one neighbor. I'm happy to see that the Lee County Lee County law enforcement are here today. Maybe they will hear us and maybe they can do something. What am I asking you to do? One idea is to start a nuisance abatement board. As stated in the presentation by the town council in 2010, the Town council is a community's legislative body as decision-making authority establishing public policies to meet the needs of the residents. The town council is responsible for providing the best possible municipal government and delivering services at levels that reflect community priorities and enhance the quality of life of residents. Committees are established by the town council with the specific purpose of and the responsibility for protecting and enhancing the quality of our life. We elected you as our leaders to help protect and keep our island a great place to live. Your job is to protect us and enhance the quality of life. Your job is not to turn the other cheek just because this business has been here for 43 years. This business is not enhancing our community. It's holding us hostage with its acceptance and our acceptance of the crime. We're asking you to take a stand. It's now time to clean up this property and hold them accountable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ellen Vaughn, followed by Karen Woodson.
Good morning, Town Council. I do not come with prepared remarks as I like to be extemporaneous. It seems to serve me best. I wanted to really echo some of the remarks that I heard from my fellow citizens. My name's Ellen Vaughn. I live at 7500 Estero Boulevard. We've owned property since 1997, so I've watched the arc of this island for quite a number of years, first as a part-time inhabitant and now as a full-time resident. And I would like to say that I see there are two confluent things that are occurring. There are many, many things on your agenda, many things you need to be concerned with. But I think the frivolous lawsuits preventing the further development, the timely development of TPI, then Margaritaville, and then what's going on at the Lani Kai are both things that are coming together and something that needs to be addressed. I wish you Godspeed on dealing with both of those issues, and I wanted to come with a visual aid. I just wanted to remind you that there is a significant endorsement on the part of the citizens of Fort Myers Beach in support of Margaritaville, TPI, now Margaritaville. I bring to you a pad of petitions that were put together by a group of people that formed themselves into an ad hoc committee to show our support. We paid to have these petitions printed. We walked every street on this island to get citizens to sign these petitions saying we wanted this. So this is a development that has the full support of so many residents of this island. And I think that having that property developed will go a long way to solving some of the other problems that were discussed.
What does it say?
It says petition to the Town Council of Fort Myers Beach to approve by permit. As a voting resident of the town of Fort Myers Beach, I support and approve of the TPI permit application as submitted. I hereby demand that the Town Council of Fort Myers Beach, acting as my representatives, listen to the LPA and its citizens and approve the TPI project is currently under review. For whatever reason, I saved about 20 of these pads, so if any of you would like to have them as scratch paper, I'd be happy to provide them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Speakers Karen Woodson, followed by Gail Moser.
Morning. I'm Karen Woodson. I live at 820 3rd Street. I don't think I can say anything more or anything different than what all of our concerned citizens have said. TPI Margaritaville, I think frivolous lawsuits, why we don't go after them, I don't understand. I think it's time. And as far as the Lani Kai, I can't say enough bad things about them, so I won't. But I can say that it is a fear factor. I mean, I walk along that street, I'm uncomfortable. I'm tired of looking at the movement of people and they're blocking you on the sidewalk in the evening. You can't even get what you're going to because there's so many people just mingling around, not in good space, not keeping their distance when you try to walk through. It's just a total nuisance and a total embarrassment for our city. So I ask you, as the town council, to really take this seriously, go forward with whatever means you need to do. I think it's great that we're going to have sheriff's department more local, but I just think that's a Band-Aid. That's just covering what the real issue is. So I'm asking you to do something. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Next.
Gail Moser, followed by Jackie Lisak.
Gail? Is there a Gail here?
Mosor.
Okay, next.
Jackie Lisak?
Good morning, my name is Gail Mason.
Kelly, take it down.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Gail Mason. I originally came on something totally off topic, and I think I will, from all the comments here, and I just want to get started on that. I know that you all have received some kind of an email from Ray. I'd like to very much, while it's on hold, for you to do some reconsideration of Bayside Park, get a lot of community input. There are a lot of people that support having the arches there. There are a lot of people that don't. There are a lot of people that support having a mooring field support system there. There are a lot of people that don't. I don't know about anybody else, but the first time I heard about it was in the sandpaper, and we don't even have that benefit anymore. And I really think this needs to be addressed with the community. There are so many options, and just from what we threw out there, we got even more suggestions. It's a community asset, and I really think it would be in your best interest to get a lot of community input on it before you move forward with anything in that park. Now, off what I came here for, I totally agree with most of what I'm hearing, and this is the first that I'm hearing about a substation for the Sheriff's Department. I'm wondering if maybe, because there's so much activity at the Lanny Kai, is why when we called for assistance the other night, that's my knowledge, nobody came. Work on the beach, a restaurant, we have all female managers. One of them is very young, and we had 2 incidents in one night, and one was rather scary, and nobody came. So maybe we need something beefed up in our sheriff responses. And maybe they can address some of the nuisance stuff too, because when I walk late at night down to my car, depending on, the other night I was really scared because a public nuisance that goes from the beach to Times Square and around was standing there spieling his thing, and the drunks were coming out of Yucatan, and they were shouting back and forth, and I had to walk between the middle of it, and it was a little frightening. Thank you very much.
Followed by Susie Bahan, B-A-H-A-N.
Good morning, Council. Jackie Lisak, President of the Fort Myers Beach Chamber of Commerce. I'm going to read the statement that my chamber board directed me to read to you this morning, and then when I finish, I'd like to take off my chamber hat and put on my resident hat and make a statement as a resident. Chamber has been supporting and working with all of the beach businesses and residents and is highly concerned with the ongoing police-required incidents on the island. Chamber and its members pride themselves on providing a safe, family-friendly destination for both residents and guests, and this type of activity is not only detrimental to our island image, but ultimately dangerous for our community. Chamber works with all businesses, whether or not they are members, to help increase awareness, enhance safety precautions, and report issues that endanger the community. Safety of the residents and guests is of utmost concern. Chamber supports and stands behind the Town Council and any direction they feel the community needs to take, whether that is increased policing, the establishment of a nuisance abatement board, or a community action group. Bold, strong policies need to be implemented to create and sustain an environment of well-being, safety, security, and peace of mind on the island. Chamber has been actively involved with and supports the establishment of a Lee County Sheriff Community Outreach Center on the island. The Sheriff's initiative, called CREW, Community Response Unit will be located in our new outreach center and will be available to serve our community. Chamber Board thanks the sheriff and all of the businesses and individuals who have donated to and or have had a hand in establishing this new community response unit on the island. It's evident in this effort that when a community works together, great things can be achieved very quickly. We look forward to welcoming the sheriff's staff to our island community and are confident that their strong presence will result in achieving our goals in a reduction of unwarranted and unlawful behavior. The Chamber will continue to monitor and collaborate with the community on all future efforts that will bring additional safety and security measures to our island. We stand at the ready to provide whatever assistance is needed to ensure our community is a safe place to live, work, and play. We also strongly urge Chris Patton to reconsider her frivolous lawsuit and to drop it. We urge the citizens of our community to stand up, make their voices heard, become active in the process, and demand change. We urge the Lani Kai to please take measures to clean up their property, provide a safe environment, and elevate their establishment on this island to the level that we all know it could be. Thank you very much. As a resident on the island and as a business owner, my name's Jackie Lezak. I own the Sea Gypsy Inn. I can't tell you how many times I have had to pick up drug paraphernalia that has blown across the front deck of my Gypsy. Little packets, you know what comes in them. I almost stabbed myself with a heroin needle one time while I was cleaning. I've had to evict drunk people, homeless people off my property. I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to feel unsafe walking down the sidewalk in the early evening hours or the late hours. I don't want to pull up in a limo with a bachelorette party that we're just completing our stop in front of the cottage and have an entire group of drunken, disorderly, aggressive people jump into the limo with all of the older ladies and scare the devil out of all of us. I don't want to deal with that anymore. I know that they can do better at the Lani Kai. I know that they want to. I urge the Conaderas family to step up, make the changes necessary, and get on the right track so our community can move forward into what we all know this can be. We love this island. We're all here because we believe in it. We came over that bridge and we saw that view and we all fell in love with it, whether it was 1 year ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago, or 50 years ago. Let's protect that view. Let's protect that island and step up and do what's right. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie.
Susie Vahan, followed by Rick Lowry.
My name is Susie Bahan, and I'm a longtime Fort Myers Beach resident. My family has been on this beach since 1975, and I've been here since 1979, respectively. I'm a business owner, a commercial property owner, and taxpayer, and a resident. For as long as I can remember, there was a police substation on Fort Myers Beach. In the recent events and the increasing homelessness issue, along with only 2 deputies on the beach at any given time, we need to seriously consider bringing the police substation and officers that are manning that substation who are involved in the community back to the beach. We also need an advisory/resident task force to address these issues. As a business owner and resident, it's imperative that we act now because the issues are continuing. I have 3 employees that will not work at night because of the homelessness issue on Old San Carlos. I go out at night. I have never been afraid on this beach in my entire life. And when I leave my business, I look around, I make sure nobody is around. I've had to call the sheriff's department multiple times for panhandling in front of my business, and it's not just panhandling, it's aggressive panhandling. And the fact that I have had drug addicts, homeless people, whatever challenges they may have, expose themselves to myself and employees, and it's just out of control. So I'm here for no other reason but that, but I also am in agreement with my fellow residents and business owners in the fact that there's some big changes that need to happen on this beach, and we need to do that sooner rather than later. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Rick Lowry, followed by Andrea Carrier.
Morning, Council. My name is Rick Lowry. I'm the current Vice President of Fort Myers Beach Little League, the past President of Little League, and the past President of Fort Myers Beach Soccer Club. I've been coaching at Bay Oaks for roughly probably about 15 years now. I'm involved in Bay Oaks, and I like to be. I'm concerned about the redevelopment of Bay Oaks property. It's hard to take a project of this magnitude, put all your perspectives together, and come up with a plan to gather community support. All this is vital in achieving funding for over $5 million for our community. I implore you to relook at the future of Bay Oaks from a perspective of practicality, configuration, and usability, and to communicate more with the public who will be impacted most by the investment in our parks and recreation. Spending $5 million and not getting what the community wants does no good for the future of the town. This plan is for our future, must be clearly planned out in every minor detail. Please do not rush and be cautious and take every advantage to make sure we do the right thing for the community. Bay Oaks needs your support. Let's do the right thing. One other thing, I've been listening to people talk about the homeless problem and Kindaris, and it's all the same that we've been going on with for years and years. You know, the homeless people. We had a guy 2 weeks ago. I tried to trespass from the library. He was living there, and when I called the officer says that public property, you cannot trespass somebody from living on. Basically, someone can live outside your door right here, and you can't do a thing about it, apparently, which really upsets me. So when you got somebody living in the back of the library after what happened a year ago, and when the officer shows up, has no clue what happened there a year ago, it's the kind of town that makes me nervous of living in. So those kind of things I think we need to clean up. So thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Rick. Next.
Andrea Carrier, followed by Pat HOS.
Hi. You all know my face. Andrea Carrier, Silver Sands, Fort Myers Beach, Florida. I didn't prepare a speech, so you know that's going to be bad news. I have been on the island since 1998 and have the Silver Sands. It has become increasingly horrible. I have them on speed dial.
Pardon me?
I have the police on speed dial.
Oh.
I have in my tiki bar for the guests a number to call them because it's so bad. I think I have a pretty good property and have spent a whole lifetime putting it together. Now, when you have somebody that can save me in this hurricane and he's got a life preserver out, you won't let him throw it. I think that's ridiculous. This has to come up. I mean, TPI has to be approved. It's been approved. I don't know what you guys are waiting for. I mean, the life preserver's right there. And I'm sitting here with this guy and a gun. What am I supposed to do? Give up? After 20 years of making it nice, I'm supposed to give up. And this, here it comes. Blank is happening. I literally have them on speed dial. I have had to deal with the homeless, with the overflow of vagrants and crap from the place next door, which is, never mind. And then I've got him on the other side. I am at wit's ends. My husband and I were going to retire after 3 years when we saw this big, wonderful project going up and approved. Oh, he friggin' died before this could happen because you kept delaying him. Well, I'm sick of it. I've lost my husband, I'm losing my business, and I have nothing else to do but to take action against all of you and him. You've got me in a corner with my hands tied. I don't like that position.
Thank you. Next.
Pat Ducos, followed by Leah Gregg.
Morning and happy Monday. I'll be short and sweet. Speaking today because enough is enough. Lonnie Kai, along with Chris Patton, has been hurting our island long enough. Time for our town to take the gloves off and end this craziness. Frivolous lawsuits not only cost legal fees, but millions in lost tax revenues. Now murder? How much are they going to be allowed to get away with? When does it stop? If there's any way that we can sue Chris Patton and the Lonnie Kai as residents, I'm in. My check's written. It's got to end. Enough is enough. Thank you.
Next speaker is Leah Gregg, followed by Deb Voorhees.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here today because I am concerned for my public safety due to the number of violent crimes committed at the Lonnie Kai. Public records show there's a sheriff call to this establishment on average 1.5 times a day, every day, 365 days a year, for everything from theft to aggressive assault to rape, stabbings, murder, you name it. And they're really not being held accountable for the activity that continuously happens on that property. Now, we can blame the Lonnie Kai, and I think many do, more often than not, but in a sense, if you think about it, they're like a spoiled, entitled child who keeps behaving badly and nothing's done about it. There's zero consequences and really never have been. The town does have the authority to implement a nuisance abatement. I know several have brought that up, but here's what I've learned about a nuisance abatement. The Florida 4th District Court of Appeals states, to be a public nuisance, the property must cause inconvenience or damage to the public generally. The Florida Supreme Court, however, takes it a little further and established a more broader rule. It states, quote, that a nuisance is any annoyance to the community or harm to the public. Therefore, a nuisance may exist even if all environmental statutes are met. Nuisance programs exist in many communities within the country and within Florida. The city of Gainesville, for example, has a nuisance abatement program that centers around an administrative board that can impose fines and other penalties on property owners for the activities that occur on their property, which constitute a public. Another example is Fort Pierce. They have a nuisance abatement process where their code enforcement will abate violations for even the simplest nuances, such as cut overgrown landscaping or paint graffiti. Our town council has the legal authority to implement a nuisance abatement for any reason to improve the quality of life and resolve safety issues within neighborhoods. Council members got back to me when I asked about the nuisance abatement, claiming our attorney, John Haim, who lives over in Fort Lauderdale, nowhere near the Lonnie Kai, informed him that really nothing could be done regarding a nuisance abatement. Yet many other Florida communities are utilizing it for what it was designed for, to eliminate any annoyance or nuisance to the community or harm to public. And again, this is a direct quote from the Florida Supreme Court. A few other comments I received from some of you is if we try to implement a nuisance abatement, the Lonnie Kai will probably get us into an expensive lawsuit. Another stated only 4 things can warrant a nuisance abatement, and they are prostitution, gangs, drugs, and dealing in stolen property. Comments were all over the place, and not one really was aligned to what our own Florida Supreme Court states. That is, a nuisance is any annoyance to the community or harm to public health, period. Well, I do realize we're getting the sheriff's substation, and I think that's a great start. But you have to keep in mind that according to the U.S. Department of Justice paper that I sent each of you, titled The Role of Local Government and Community Safety, it states that community safety is not the sole responsibility of the police. In fact, it states local municipal leaders, such as yourselves, play a crucial role in protecting communities and keeping them safe. I'll leave it at that. Am I out of time?
Yes, you are.
But I'll be happy to read the last paragraph if you like later.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next speaker is Deb Voorhees, followed by Bobby Kemp.
Good morning, everyone. Roger, counselors. I'm going to pull this up. I wrote it on my phone. I can keep myself true to my statement here. My name's Deb Voorhees. I live here in Fort Myers Beach at 181 Anchorage Street. I moved here in 2015, and I, like a lot of other people, came over the bridge and fell in love with this community. And as many of you know, I also rolled my sleeves up and got involved working with a lot of the nonprofits on the island to help make this island an even better place. And right when I got here, one of the first things I think a lot of us do is we go to Lonnie Kai because it's beautiful on the roof, and we think, oh, we want to go and have sunset there. Well, I went up the elevator, and it was sticky, and it had a strange smell. There were some drunken people that were bumping into me, and it was not a pleasant experience, and I didn't go back for a long time. And then when I did, a few years later, I went to get a coffee, and my trip to get coffee at their Starbucks was marred on a Sunday afternoon by two ladies older than me that came out of the bathroom and started having a fist fight while they were drunk. And I turned around and left. This type of activity does not define our island. This type of activity is not what we want our guests to see and think of when they think of Fort Myers Beach. I know we have a little bit of a past with our Navy stuff and a little rough and tumble, but this is 2020, and we should not be defined by middle-aged women slinging it out over a man on a Sunday afternoon. I also used to go to water aerobics at Bay Oaks, and it became a joke there how many people from Lani Kai came there to use a shower because they didn't have hot water. And we kind of chuckled about it, but if you step back and look at the overall message of it, this place does not reflect on us well. It really doesn't. That's just a sampling of the unsolicited complaints that I heard that have nothing to do with the current lawsuit or anything else or any friends that I might have on this island. I also do want to speak briefly about the nuisance lawsuits by Chris Patton that are financed, we hear, by Lani Kai. I'm a taxpayer, and I deeply resent the money that we're having to spend to defend against these suits. These suits are not designed to win any precedent. They're designed to bleed resources so that the plaintiff goes away. And that is just not a precedent we can set. And I implore all of you to dig deep and to fight these, because if we don't fight this one, there'll be many more lined up behind it. And instead of being governed by officials that we elect, we will be governed by wealthy people that think they can push us around. And I would hate to see what our island would look like if that was the case. So I thank you very much for your time. We can make a change that we all like.
Thank you, Deb.
Next speaker is Bobby Kemp.
Mayor, council members, I'm Bobby Kemp. I'm a resident. Excuse me. I just came to urge you to please take action against Lani Kai and Chris Patton. I agree with everything that's been said before me. I have a whole list if you want me to repeat it, but frivolous lawsuits, all of the calls from the Lani Kai, everybody knows Lani Kai has issues. I just urge you to please keep us safe, make Fort Myers Beach a wonderful family location, and I urge you to take some action. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Mayor and Council, I received communications asked to be part of the public record from Jan and Ron Fleming, Ray McDonald, Tim Shadle, and Ken Conadaris. Do you want me to read any of these or just include them as part of the meeting record?
You can include those as part of the record, and I think there was also another one from Mr. Bodenhofer. He sent something in. You can include that as well. And have any more speakers?
I do not.
Charlie's waving his hand. Okay.
I didn't sign up,
Not going to get the last word today, Charlie.
I never get the last word. I'm a married man with daughters. My name is Charlie Whitehead, and as y'all all know, I am not a tax-paying resident of the town of Fort Myers Beach. I am a member of the Beach Little League Board of Directors. I'm the umpire in charge. I must say I am gratified to see all these people here saying that they support the family and the kids of Fort Myers Beach, because that means in a few months when y'all are talking about the budget, they'll be in here looking to get y'all to properly fund the redevelopment of Bay Oaks, even if that means raising their property taxes. I'm not really sure that that's the case, but we'll see. We'll say that Little League Board is thrilled to see y'all talking about the redevelopment of Bay Oaks. We understand that you are many millions of dollars short for what
what the plans say should be done, and we are glad to be involved on the front end of the project. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Your humility always goes before you. Those of you who don't know Charlie, he did say that he's not a tax-paying member here, but he's been a very active member of this community for as long as I've known him, which is close to 40 years. So he's very active in the community, and we value his participation. Thank you, Charlie. Are there any other speakers, Madam Clerk?
I have no other requests.
I have to ask, we have some deputies here, some carrying clipboards and so forth. Did anyone want to speak or say anything? Or Sure. Okay, come on up.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Andy Prisco. I'm a captain with the Lee County Sheriff's Office. I'm currently in charge of the Community Response Unit, and we are flattered to have us here at the beach. As you can see, the office that we're making, and I just want to clarify something on behalf of the whole agency and the sheriff as well. That is not going to be a substation. That is going to be an outreach center, and what the difference is the substation, which is commanded by Brian Jakacki, who's back there, the captain, is off Pine Ridge Road, and that houses all the deputies that respond to calls for service to everybody here on Fort Myers Beach. We also have, I believe, 2 deputies that are permanently assigned to Fort Myers Beach that are here all the time taking calls. But that will not be somewhere we be dispatching calls out of. That will be an outreach center. If you're familiar, we have 2 other ones in the county. One's at Bell Tower and one's at Miramar Outlets. But it will be staffed, hopefully, with either a volunteer, a citizen, or if a certified deputy's in there. And you can go in there, and we got a lot of programs that we can put on out of there. We can answer any questions. Maybe we're even hoping to share it with the chamber as some sort of a welcome center where there's literature out there. But we definitely want to get more involved with the community. We want to be here, grassroots, boots on the ground, and we want to meet with all of the business owners and residents, and that is basically going to be the hub that we do that out of. If you remember, if you own a business here in Fort Myers Beach, I think we started at Bowditch Park and we went all the way down to the Diamond Head the day after the shooting at the Lani Kai. We contacted over 150 businesses and introduced them to the concept of the Community Response Unit and what we were planning on doing with the Outreach Center. And thanks to Councilman Allers and to Jackie over at the Chamber, we've made that possible in a matter of 2 weeks. It is my hope that we open it up yesterday, but I'm shooting for August 15th at the latest, September 1st, to have it fully operational. We have had so many overwhelming responses and donations from this community. It really has touched our heart, and we want to do everything we can to get that open as quickly and as safely as possible. Thank you for your time. Any questions?
Captain, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Andrew Prisco, Prisco. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Captain. Thanks for stopping in. Is there anyone else who likes to speak this morning? Who would like to speak? No one else? Okay, there's one item here that I'm going to read into the record. Michelle mentioned it. Was a communication from the Lani Kai. I've been speaking to members of the Conadaris family, and they sent me this email and asked me to read it into the public record, and I agreed to do it. I will read it as follows. Lani Kai is working hard on implementing positive changes coming soon. And these are bullet points that are listed underneath that. After hours, only guests may be on property or beach. Zero tolerance policy for non-guests. Next bullet item. Updating room key cards to wrist fobs, which will help with guest identification. Next item. Do not rent list for anyone who causes any type of altercation. Next item. Cover-ups and footwear now required indoors. Next item. Begin issuing a resort fee. Next item. Slight price increase on alcoholic beverages. Next item. Continue to hire LCSO, Lee County Sheriff Office, during busier than usual holidays and events. Next item. Begin hiring LCSO on the weekends. Next item. Staff will go through security training certifications, licensing, and thorough background checks. Next item. Staff will attend quarterly security meetings for updates, mandates to the department. Okay, that's the end of that communication. To all the town council received that. That's in the record now. Okay, that concludes the public comment portion of the meeting. We'll move on to the next item, which is local achievements and recognitions. We'll start with you, Councilman Veach.
I've got nothing.
Nothing. Councilman Adderall.
I have a couple quick things. I want to be brief because I want to hold the folks here, the issue that they're here for. But I'd be remiss if I didn't say a couple things. Since we last met, the governor signed the budget into law. And because of the COVID crisis, didn't get a lot of attention, but also because of the COVID crisis, he had to make $1 billion in cuts. One of the things that did not get cut was $625 million for water improvements and Everglades restoration. I just want to commend the governor and the legislature. In a time of fiscal constraint, as a result of revenue shortfalls, they continue to make the $625 million annual four-year plan a priority, and it's passed and signed into law. It's part of a $2.5 billion effort. So next year, the following year is going to be critical. I've asked for a modest amount in our budget here to help with those efforts, to advocate, particularly next year in a non-election year, to continue those resources to be appropriately spent towards this quality water effort. So I just wanted to give them a kudos. Second of all, a little over a week ago, I got a text from Cindy Johnson from Turtle Time. And she asked if I was interested in observing a turtle nest excavation. So my wife and I went out that morning, and with Cindy's supervision, we dug out the eggs and 10 live hatchlings. After the nest hatched 2.5 days ago, and then they go in afterwards and just see if any turtles did make it out. And she found 10. The nest actually produced 46. Later that evening, she invited us to come and release the turtles into the ocean, which we did, and along with some neighbors. I see Ellen Vaughn here today. She joined us. Quite impressive. The whole operation, very impressive. I was just impressed by Turtle Time's dedication, professionalism. I didn't fully understand what all they did. I do now, and I'm very thankful for their service to our island. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Before I pass it on to the Cindy Johnson was busy that week because she also invited me to one of those as well. And I brought a few neighbors over and got a nest, and there was one little live one in there, and also one what they call a pip still in the shell, and that was born as well. So they were included into another batch of them that were found and released again that evening as well. So they're working the council. So that's good. That's good. But Vice Mayor.
I'm going to pass for now. Thanks.
Pass. Dan?
Yeah, first I'd like to recognize the Beach Kids Foundation for giving out 15 $1,000 scholarships to local kids. They do a great job of making sure some of these kids can further their education. So I wanted to thank them. Also, I want to thank some of our local businesses that have helped me, along with the Lee County Sheriff's Office, to get the outreach center off the ground. It's a great example of showing how fast things can get done if people work together. I'd like to thank Spruce Refrigeration, Reflow Plumbing, Scott Island Development, All Phase Electric, Beach Boys Air Conditioning, the Sea Gypsy Inn, The Goods, Gavin's Ace Hardware, The Whale, TPI, Lee County Sheriff's Office as a whole, specifically Sergeant Canfield, who's here. He's been my point of contact throughout the whole thing. He and his team have been great. Captain Prisco, obviously, who just spoke, and Sheriff Marcino. He was the first one that I spoke to about this on the phone, and he was very much willing to do whatever it took to get the presence of the Lee County Sheriff's Office down here. It's important to know that this is not going to be a for lack of a better term, silver bullet that fixes an issue, but it's a start. It's a start to show people that we are trying to do something, and we're going to continue to push on. At least I'm personally going to continue to push on to make sure that people don't have to come in for 55 minutes and speak about how they don't feel safe on our island. That's all I got for now.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the advisory committees, items and reports. Do we have any advisory committees? We don't have any. Okay. Next item is the approval of minutes. We have a regular town council meeting of June 15th, 2020, and a regular town council special meeting of July 1st, 2020. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Moved.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Any objection to the motion? The motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, the next, we move into the administrative agenda. The first item is a resolution 20-24, which is a solid waste interlocal agreement with Lee County. I will read that, beginning of that resolution. Read the title. Resolution 20-24, a resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Fort Myers Beach, Florida, approving an interlocal agreement with Lee County for municipal solid waste disposal, solid waste system assessment, and supplemental services, authorizing the execution of the agreement and providing an effective date. Is there a motion to approve that resolution? I'll move to approve the resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved, seconded. Any discussion? Objection? Motion carries unanimously. The next is a resolution 20-22, Florida Department of Transportation LAP agreement, which is regarding the Old San Carlos Boulevard signalization, and this is to authorize the FDOT LAP agreement, which is the Old San Carlos signalization of $695,000. I'll read the resolution title. Resolution 20-22, resolution of the Town of Fort Myers Beach, Florida, approving a local agency program agreement between the Florida Department of Transportation and the town for the design, construction, and engineering inspection of a traffic signal at the intersection of Estero Boulevard and Old San Carlos Boulevard, authorizing the manager to execute the agreement and expend budgeted funds on behalf of the town and providing an effective date. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I just wanted to ask Roger if this was, any major changes or anything had happened with this since we had discussed it previously? Same?
Yes.
Thank you. I'll move to approve.
Move.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilman Veach.
I have a question, though, to Roger. Now, I read through the proposal. It seems like, where are we in the process of this? Because I think that in the, Exhibit A, the date for having the design done is already passed.
Yes, the design is virtually complete, which is a requirement to move to this step.
Okay.
We have shared the design with both FDOT and Lee County throughout its preparation. Next step is to secure the funding to move forward to construction so that we can bid the project utilizing LAP funds. I'd like to point out to the council that this is the first time that the town has been eligible to utilize LAP funding. And if we can implement this project successfully, potentially seek LAP funds in the future for other similar types of projects.
Any further discussion? Objection to the motion? Carries unanimously. Okay, the next item is C, FDOT Matanzas Pass Bridge Maintenance Agreement. This is to adopt the resolution 20-21, resolution of the Town of Fort Myers Beach, Florida, approving an agreement between the Florida Department of Transportation and the town for the maintenance of the Matanzas Pass Bridge, compensating the Florida Department of Transportation for the cost of same, authorizing the mayor to execute the agreement, authorizing the town manager to expend budgeted funds, providing an effective date. Is there a motion to approve the
We move
resolution?
to approve the resolution.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Yes, town manager.
I think there's a slight error in the title. The people who be compensated for the maintenance of the bridge would be the town.
Yes, I saw that as well. I was going to ask you about that. Okay, good. That correction in the title. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Objection? Carries unanimously. Thank you. Next item is E, which is the Florida League of Cities 2020 Conference Voting Delegate.
Nope.
Did I skip something?
Yes.
Oh, excuse me. D. Already got an X through it. Next item is a school resource officer program at Beach Elementary School. The Lee County Sheriff's Office has submitted an agreement for the town of Fort Myers Beach fund half of the cost of the existing school resource officer, which is $54,000 $640.34 at Beach Elementary for the upcoming school year, and authorize the town manager to execute the agreement. Roger, you want to start this discussion here?
Mr. Mayor and members of council, this has been put in place as a result of, I guess, unfortunate event at Parkland High School in Howard County, whereby the legislature determined that every school was to have a resource officer, which was not always the case in every of the 67 counties. Fortunately, there was not adequate funding provided by the state with this mandate, and the counties and the county governments and the school boards were left to try to deal with this issue. The county determined that they would step in and fund half in the unincorporated area, and the school board would fund the other half of the school resource officers. They made the determination that in municipalities, the school board pay half, and they would have a request that the municipalities pay half. So this issue has been revisited by your predecessors. This concept has been rejected by them in the past for a couple of reasons that I could share with you. One was unfunded mandate. Two, because the Beach Elementary School had been provided with a school resource officer before the Parkland shooting. And three, the determination that municipalities such as Cape Coral or Fort Myers, they decided to have their own officers be the school resource officer at the schools in their jurisdictions, whereas we don't have our own police officers other than the Lee County Sheriff. For that reason, the previous councils has rejected this request, but we put it before you since it's, at the end of the day, it's a council policy decision. I'll tell you that right now it's not contemplated in the budget, but if the council were to decide to go forward, we would try to make the accommodation through comp.
Who picked up the tab then? Want to pick up the whole, the school board?
It's my understanding that the sheriff's office continued to staff the other half of the position.
Sheriff's office. Council?
I voted against this the last time for the reasons that Mr. Hernstad set forth. I see no reason to change my on that at this time. So I wouldn't be voting for it unless someone gives me some compelling reason to change my mind.
Roger, do other municipalities, and maybe I missed it, do other municipalities, if they don't have their own police force, are they paying for half of it, or will we be the only ones?
I'm not certain how the arrangement in the example Bonita Springs is, where they use the county sheriff under a service contract. I don't know exactly how they do it there, so I can't speak to that. I do know, generally speaking, from having police departments under my span of control in other jurisdictions, that generally speaking, police departments don't like other police departments operating in their jurisdictional boundaries. So I understand why Myers and Cape Coral have taken the position that they've taken with regard to this issue. I think, one of the bigger considerations for the prior council was an expense being absorbed passed by the sheriff's office. So there is really no reason why they couldn't continue it. So that's what I could tell you. I hope I've answered your question.
I'd like to make one comment, though. In the background here, it's, it says that many of the parents and children attending the Beach Elementary do not live within Fort Myers Beach. Well, that may be the case. It's my opinion that once they enter the beach, it's our job to make sure they're safe. If that means we have to spend a little bit of money to make that happen, I would be in support of it if nobody else is going to cover it. It sounds like Lee County Sheriff's Office is not willing to foot the whole bill. But I do believe it's our responsibility to make sure that the kids and the staff at the school are safe. I would be in support of this.
Just further clarification, Roger. So if we do not support this resolution today, there will still be a school resource officer at the Beach Elementary School. Is that fair?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, my inclination is not to support it. It just seems like it's just trying to shift the cost onto the town like they've done with a number of.
Yeah, and I'm in agreement with the three of you as well. Our kids are going to be protected, whether they're our kids here on the beach, whether the kids coming in off the beach. They're going to be protected as they always have been in the past. I'm not concerned about that at all. I am concerned about how the costs are shifted around. Oh, with that being said, everyone has spoken. Is there a motion? Does someone want to put together a motion here?
I'll move to deny the request.
Moved. Is there a second?
A second.
Moved second. Any further discussion? Objection to the motion? Motion carries unanimously. Okay. The next item is the E, which is the Florida League of Cities 2020 Conference Voting Delegate. This is a request to appoint a voting delegate to the annual Florida League of Cities 2020 Conference. This is just an item here for the council. Does anybody have a burning desire to be our voting delegate at the annual conference? If not, I'll do it. But I will recommend, though, once things get back to normal and conventions start up again and so forth, that we as a group, and those of you who've never attended a Florida League of Cities convention, definitely go and participate. It'll be well worth your time and your effort to get together with other elected officials from around the state, and also to learn a lot. They're very informative sessions that they have. Oh, okay then? Do you want me?
Do you need a motion?
I don't know if we need one or not, but go ahead then.
I would move that we appoint the mayor as our voting delegate to the annual Florida Cities 2020 conference.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Any objection? I'll show you all my big badges if they send them to me. Thank you. Okay, the next item is a request to designate a representative to the Estero Bay Agency on Bay Management. This is a little bit more important, I think. This is a request to designate a representative and an alternative to the Estero Bay Agency on Bay Management. This is of interest to a few members here. Does anyone wish to serve as the representative?
Before anybody says that, I'd like to reflect what I believe is my memory about this subject. My memory seems to indicate that we had designated a council member in the past, and that their meetings were always held on Mondays and conflicted with our meetings, which is why we designated a staff person to go.
Possible. I don't know what their schedule is, to be honest with you.
So I hesitate for us, I think it would be great if we send a council member, but
We can table this. We don't have to decide right now, I don't think. Do we have any idea when those meetings are? Does anybody?
No, I hadn't heard that, but that's very possible. What I suggest then what you do is pick a council member, and then we could have the staff person be the alternate. So if that is the case, we'll be back in the similar situation that occurred in the past when Burns did it.
That's a good suggestion.
Would nominate Councilor Veach.
Second that. Any other nominations? Anybody else interested?
I suggest that Chad be our alternate.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so we have Councilman Bill Veach as our representative to the Bay Agency on Bay Management, with Chad Chutz as our alternate. Any objection to that? Be it. Okay. Here we are. Final public comment. Are there anyone from the public that wishes to speak or speak again? You have 2 cracks at it today if you want to come up again. Hearing none, we'll move on. Town manager's items.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I'm going to be brief today because we do have the public here. They're waiting to hear comments about their comments. I would like to ask your consent to deal with the right-of-way setback issue, a rear right-of-way setback issue at 339 Madison, which is the flip side of Denora. Same way the council dealt with the last item where the fence was in the town's portion along the water, their pool, and that is under a public works right-of-way permit. Until such time as a right-of-way vacation may happen in the near future on Denora and then subsequently on Madison.
I have no problem with allowing you to proceed as you did in the past.
I don't either. Else?
With that said, I appreciate that, and I'm sure the property owners there who have been hung up trying to get this issue resolved will appreciate your efforts. Part to this.
That's it? Okay. Town attorney.
Good morning, Mayor and members of the council. I have 2 items to discuss and with you. The first is obviously subject of a lot of discussion from the residents is the existence of the latest lawsuit filed by Ms. Patton objecting to the ultimately the TPI project. We've been in discussion, or I've been in contact with all of you about the ongoing attempts to have that lawsuit timely served on the town. I sent out correspondence and phone calls to the attorney representing Ms. Patton last week, attempting to confirm that the mayor was going to be served here this morning. I don't see a process server. At this point in time, I understand the desire of this council to move as quickly as possible and as vigorously as possible in fighting this lawsuit and getting it disposed of in the quickest amount of time possible. And in order to do so, one of the things is to waive service and authorize me to accept service of the lawsuit. Historically, this council has said no to that, but in the circumstances and the fact that Mr. Brooks has failed to confirm with me his intent to serve the mayor in a timely fashion, something for you all to consider.
Weeks ago, I contacted Mr. Herron and asked him to poll the council permission to go ahead and waive service on this matter. Just a delaying tactic on their part. Apparently, he did not receive authority from my fellow council members to do that. Which I don't understand. I can't understand that there's any good reason not to waive service so that we can move forward. In addition, I have no memory of the council ever setting a policy telling the town attorney that he can't accept service, so that's something else I'd like to discuss today. It certainly should be within his power to determine in a case that it's in the best interest of the town to move forward on a case and waive service of his own legal determination.
I'm confused by your comment, Counselor, in that I supported him taking service and doing whatever we needed to do to move as quickly as possible. So that's two people, therefore yes. I'm confused. Yeah.
Right. So let me be clear. This council did, in fact, direct me not to accept service on behalf of the town with prior lawsuits. There have been, in my tenure, there have been a number of lawsuits that have been filed against the town, and in each and every one of those, and in fact, in at least one of those occasions, the attorney representing the property owner is in fact the same attorney representing Ms. Patton, and he attempted to serve me electronically the same manner as in this case. And I brought that issue to the council's attention, and I was instructed at that point in time, and it may have been the prior council, that said, no, Mr. Herron, the mayor is supposed to be served in all lawsuits. That's the policy of this council.
If you all decide differently, then certainly you can make that decision here today, but you would have to make that decision at a public meeting, majority vote, to direct me to accept service not only in this case, but in the future.
I support that.
Further, just to explain that at the time that we had the conversation with each one of you, or I had the conversation with each one of you, I had conversations with Mr. Brooks, and at that time, he had assured me that service was imminent, and that's obviously not the case.
Just for a bit of clarification, I guess there's no clock on this service, so you don't have a timeline when they have to?
They do, but they can take up to 120 days.
The other question is, if they're delaying serving the mayor, will they also just delay serving you? Is it a waiving of the service entirely, or is it
Waive the
just?
service proactively.
We can waive the service proactively, as the vice mayor indicates.
That's fine with me. I mean, if that's the will of the council is to accept service, that's fine. I mean, you're saying that we can do it at today's public meeting?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's what I thought you were saying. So, okay, is there a motion to appoint the town attorney to accept service of?
He's not appointed. He waives the service, literally.
Oh, you're waiving. You're not going to be accepted electronically then?
I will accept it electronically. I think the motion should be to waive the prior council policy that service has to be on the mayor.
That's a different item altogether. It's a different item. That's two different.
That's true. You can
Okay,
take them up separately.
I'll make two separate motions. The first motion, that we direct the town attorney to waive service on the currently recently filed lawsuit regarding TPI.
Second that.
Moved and second. Any discussion? Objection? Okay, that passes.
Second motion, that if the previous policy that Mr. Herron believes was in existence, that he is not allowed to waive service, be abolished. I see no reason to have such a policy in place.
Second that as well.
Move and second it.
Just for clarification on that, does that mean that he has to specifically authorize every case of waiving service?
No. In my opinion, the town attorney should be able to exercise his own independent judgment and decide that waiving service is appropriate on a case-by-case basis.
He has to make the decision. It's not like we're leaving all.
No.
When was that policy put into effect, John? Just
Moment, one left. Around May of 2019.
May of 2019. Would have been after we were put back on the council. That is right. I don't remember.
If you wish, I can have them.
No, it doesn't really matter at this point. It was more out of curiosity than anything else. Oh, okay, it's moved and seconded. It's been discussed. Any objection to the motion? It carries unanimously. Anything else, Town Attorney?
The second matter I wanted to bring to the council's attention is the notice of claim that was received by the town in the Dune walkover case. This is commonly referred to. Last week, the town was served through, or I believe on the mayor, the notice of claim, a Burt Harris claim, alleging that the actions of the council in denying the Dune walkover application It constitutes an inordinate burden on the property owner's property rights to approximately, I think, each one about slightly over $500,000. And there is along with that notice of claim, a specific settlement offer that was extended, which has been provided to each one of you all. And so I need some direction on how you wish for me to proceed in responding to that. Under the statute, we have 150 days from the date that the notice of claim was served on the mayor or submitted to the mayor to respond. But obviously, the property owner in their notice of claim, as well as their cover letter, have specifically asked for the town council to respond to their settlement offer by the 20th of this month. Does not mean, and they specifically recognize in their settlement offer that it does not preclude the town from submitting a separate settlement offer to them in accordance with the statute, which would be up to 150 days from the date that the claim was presented to the mayor.
Is this something you would advise going into executive session?
We cannot go into an executive session on it because no lawsuit has actually been filed.
Hasn't been filed.
What happens next is akin to the mediation process that we would have been involved in before.
Very similar. There's as in one of the emails I sent to you along with the claim is an outline of what happens. We do have this 150 days in which to engage with the property owner in seeking a settlement to the dispute, either on the terms that they've submitted to you in their cover letter or an alternate settlement proposal. And certainly I can communicate with each one of you all individually to get your thoughts on that and ultimately bring it before or have that discussion, specific direction at a council meeting. We can then forward that response to the property owner's attorney.
I'm still willing to participate in the process as the representative of council if that's helpful. I was appointed, or I'm still willing to do that.
There, in the sense of the FLUEDRA, the Florida Land Use and Environmental Dispute Resolution Act, there is no formal setting. It's really more correspondence, but certainly I have no objection to the council appointing a point person to serve as a liaison with me. But ultimately, whatever proposal or settlement that we either accept or counter would have to come from the council as a whole.
Why don't we put it on the agenda for our next meeting?
But we can have it as an add-on to the M&P on Thursday, and we can discuss it. And although no formal direction can be given, at least there can be a robust discussion that maybe then on the meeting on the 17th, and you can give me specific direction on.
Sound all right to
that
everyone?
discussion.
Sure.
Sound good? Okay. What we'll do. Thank you very much.
I have a question for
Go right
council.
ahead. Go right ahead.
I just wanted to ask about the progress on the water cost pass-through ordinance. It was recommended to us by the people who did our last water study.
The draft resolution is in my inbox to work with Christie on to bring to you all at the next meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Council members, items and reports. Start down with you again, Bill.
Okay, well, probably to start, I think it's an appropriate time to talk about the possibility of forming a nuisance abatement board on everyone's email for some time now. I read through the ordinance. I read through some supporting literature about formation of a nuisance abatement board. I personally have my doubts that it would be useful in our current predicament, but I think it could be a useful tool for the council to have for other situations that arise. I know, like, for example, that I think in the 80s, there were some pretty rough instances, some hotels and things that have since been bought and fixed up, but that were known as being events for dumping and whatnot. certainly too with some of the vacation rentals, there's a possibility that those can get out of hand. And I think that forming a nuisance abatement board would be a useful tool in our quiver going forward to try to maintain the safety of the town and the residents. Yeah, the other thing is, you know, I know everyone, there's a lot of passions going on about the Lani Kai specifically. Like all of you, I went through the information that was sent, the disproportionate number of calls, and it's actually quite stunning how disproportionate the calls are. I did a little bit of math with the fire department, because the fire department, the average number of calls for the slots number 2 to 9 was around 30 a year, and the Lani Kai it's over 100. With the fire department, they're a separate entity, so you can figure out what share of the budget of the fire department comes from calls to Lani Kai, and it's around $500,000 a year. In their trim statement, they pay $30,000 a year to the fire department. Similarly, the sheriff, who has 4 or 5 times more calls generally than to the Lani Kai than the fire department. You can guess it's probably a similar number, because the sheriff tends to have less expensive calls. The fire department goes with 5 people and 2 trucks. The sheriff, I assume most often, is 1. But those two combine to be and all these are paid for by property taxes. They're not paid for by sales taxes. They're not paid for by any of the other taxes that come from a business like the Lani Kai. So to me, that says that the property tax payers, the landowners in the fire department's catchment area and in the town, are subsidizing the Lani Kai to the tune of about $1 million a year, extra taxes. I appreciate the measures that they have discussed in trying to improve. I think they're a little light considering the severity of the disproportionate calls they have. The other thing that has been talked about is not just the Lani Kai, but the kind of concentration of activity spills out into the neighborhood around there. And there seems to be some evidence that the vacant buildings where the TPI property are slated to go provide shadows that criminal activity can more easily be taken. And what I as part of the program, and I appreciate the Lani Kai's making the motions they are now, but I think that we miss not point out that while they're taking steps towards showing that they're trying to be a good corporate citizen, at the same time financing these lawsuits that keep these properties and these shadows for criminal activity there is really counterproductive. But I would strongly encourage the Kennedy-Harris family to use their influence to drop these lawsuits and refrain from financing any of these lawsuits so that we can clean up the area generally and take the measures they are taking. That was my point.
Thank you very much.
After the shooting at the Lani Kai, I asked our town manager to request data from our fire chief for the top 10 addresses generating a response from our fire department in the last 3 years. Councilor Veach says the numbers were shocking. 2017, number 1 user, 1400 Estero Boulevard, Lani Kai, 129. Next largest user, 7205 Estero Boulevard, 43. 2018, number 1, 1400 Estero Boulevard, 98. Number 2, different entity, different address, 7146 Estero Boulevard, 66. 2019, 1400 Estero Boulevard, Lani Kai, 100. Next largest, different entity, again, different address, 6890 Estero Boulevard, 46. 2020, January year to date, 1400 Estero Boulevard, 70. Different address, number 2, 121 Linnell Road. Soon after, I received data from a constituent who aggravated information from the Sheriff's Department's website on the number of runs to the Lani Kai. The numbers were again stunning. Aside from the obvious public safety concerns, with the disproportionate amount of police and fire runs to the Lani Kai, as Councilor Veach said, Taxpayers of Fort Myers Beach are, in effect, subsidizing the business model of the Lani Kai. This, my friends, must stop now. Our island's economy is dependent upon tourism, and the data measuring the reputational damage done by the criminal activity at the Lani Kai is more difficult to measure, but it's real. With respect to the newest litigation threatened against the town and allegedly financed by the Lani Kai, the reputational damage done to prospective economic development, a new restaurant, hotel, or retail shop on our island, is also difficult to measure. If we lose the current developer for Margaritaville, who, in their right mind, in this litigious environment, would ever step in to take their place? That is why I strongly support authorizing our town attorney and our town manager to not just fight this lawsuit vigorously, but to utilize all remedies afforded to us by law. Not one, not two, but 3 different town councils have shown unanimous support for the TPI Margaritaville development. This collection of council members over the years represents every part of our island, every faction, every ideology, every socioeconomic background. Think of all the disparate members who have served since 2018. All have unanimously supported this development in a public setting. Visions of our town are before us today. One with a completely revamped Estero Boulevard with enhanced stormwater, new sidewalks and bike lanes, refurbished Times Square and Bayside Park, new Margaritaville Resort, a restructured traffic flow at the foot of the bridge, basically a new Bay Oaks community and recreational facility for our town. Pair that with the other vision for our town. Climate of fear, crime, stagnation, litigation, and fenced-in vacant lots. We're at a fork in the road. As Ronald Reagan said in 1964, this is a time for choosing. I'm reminded of the movie It's a Wonderful Life. We have a choice between Bedford Falls or Pottersville. We don't have the luxury to call upon George Bailey or Jimmy Stewart. For the younger citizenry, I'm reminded of the movie Roadhouse, which portrayed the roughest bar in town, the Double Deuce, basically destroying the community. Again, we don't have Dalton or Patrick Swayze to call upon. The people of Fort Myers Beach have elected us to protect this town. I'm confident that the men and women on this council are prepared to do just that. First step is the creation of the Nuisance Abatement Board with significant teeth. Second is to support the Sheriff's Outreach Substation at the north end of our island. And lastly, to defend against this litigation with every fiber of our being. There's one common thread I've heard from constituents since the shooting at the Lani Kai, and that is, enough is enough. So, let's roll. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mayor.
Well, I'm going to get off track for a moment. Council member items and reports is a time for us to report on other things that are going on, as well as the current controversy, which I will personally address. But first, I'd like to report that I have attended the beach and shoreline meetings of the Tourist Development Council, and report that due to the COVID situation, the beach and shoreline funds from the tourist development tax are approximately $6 million short, is their guess of where they thought they would be. A preliminary vote has been taken about how we are going to be distributing the beach and shoreline funds at that meeting, and at that point in time we did lose the funding for the restrooms that we had approved at the end of Palm Avenue. I am still hoping that more money will come into the tax and that this project will be restored, but I wanted to report to the council that the preliminary vote on that is that we don't have the funding to do that. We are not the only community that lost projects. Basically, most of the capital improvement projects that were proposed were set aside for the time being, fortunately. As to the TPI case, general public is probably not aware that we cannot meet in executive session to discuss our strategy about how aggressive we would like to be until service was done. So I'd like to request now that we have authorized the attorney to waive service, that we ask that he immediately set in motion the process for us to have an executive session so that we can discuss how aggressive we'd like to be in responding to this lawsuit. Do I have anybody else who wants to have an executive session as soon as possible?
I agree. I would support that.
And just so the public knows, my preference to having the executive session is so that we can discuss this in private. We don't want to be showing our hand to opposing counsel regarding our actions. Personally, my position is that I hope that we will be as aggressive as we ethically can be. As to the Lani Kai, I share my fellow council members' concern, anger, disappointment regarding that situation. My past experience with boards like nuisance abatement boards is that they're a lot of work and they rarely accomplish a great deal. I believe that our issue with the Lani Kai is a law enforcement issue, and I would like to see our council come together in a strong way to communicate with the sheriff that we would like to meet with them and discuss better law enforcement, undercover operations, et cetera, to go on at that establishment. I think that's the first way we attack it, is through law enforcement. It's a law enforcement issue. The things that are going on there are crimes, and they are the ones who are best suited to take care of crime in our community. So I would like to hear from my fellow council members that they would like to address how to communicate how much we want them to take stronger action regarding that property. And those are my items at this point.
Councilmember?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'll start with a nuisance abatement board, since there's not much more that I can add to it that my fellow councilors haven't already said. I have had a lot of conversations with Sergeant Canfield regarding the teeth and what it allows them to be able to do from their standpoint. So, Madam Vice Mayor, to go to what you were saying about having discussions with them about what it can do, Sergeant Canfield was nice enough to come out here today. If it's okay with the mayor, could we allow him a few minutes, if he chooses to speak, to give us a little bit of information of how exactly the nuisance abatement board would give them more tools in their tool chest to be able to help us?
The only comment I can make to
Identify yourself, please, sir.
Sure. I'm Sergeant Alan Canfield with Lee County Sheriff's Office.
Thank you.
Currently supervise the Community Response Unit and report to Captain Prisco. Councilwoman, I respect your opinion of what's occurring at the Lani Kai, and there are crimes there. But without a crime being committed, there's no call for service. Those crimes have to happen in order for us to respond. Having said that, we do respond to crimes and we enforce statutes. We need those statutes, we need those ordinances to do our job. That's really all I can say to it.
I believe that...
Thank you, Sergeant.
Thank you, Sergeant Canfield. I believe that this nuisance abatement board is a step in the right direction. Is it going to solve all the issues? It's not retroactive. It can't go backwards. But it does allow the community to have a say in nuisance properties going forward. If nothing else, it'll put people on notice that behavior that has gone on in the past will no longer be tolerated. They will have to answer to it. I think that's something this community has asked for. I think it's well past its deserving to have it. My hopes is that we can put one in place and it never gets used. That means that we haven't had a problem. But the fact that we don't have anything there to hold anybody accountable doesn't make sense to me. I would ask that hopefully I can get the majority of the council to put this on the agenda for Thursday's meeting to discuss it further, to hopefully get our attorney to put together one that we can vote on our next meeting. Should it be the will of the council, I would like to see if we can do that for Thursday's one of Thursday's agenda items.
I would support that. I would too.
I would like to respond briefly with my disappointment to Sergeant Canfield's response to me, that they don't act unless there's a crime. We have evidence that there has been repeated crime at this location, and I know from working in the court system most of my life that when there are repeated crimes in a location, law enforcement does look into it in a proactive way. And I don't want the fact that we start to discuss a nuisance abatement board to divert us from also encouraging that the Sheriff's Department be much more proactive on this property.
It's your time, Dan, but I think that's a fair point, but I think the two are not mutually exclusive. And I support your efforts, Councilor Hasselfrost, but I also think we could do both. And I think we should move forward with the nuisance abatement conversation on Thursday so we can vote on it as soon as possible, because I think it's important that we send a message. But we can also do what you're suggesting and have conversations with the Sheriff's Office as to how we can be more proactive.
Not we be more proactive, they be more proactive.
All of us together.
Well, I think it takes both sides. I have spoken with Captain Prisco about potentially at our next meeting, they may come back out and I'll talk to them again about putting something in place about what we can do to work with them to potentially have more patrolling on the island, that they could bring forth to council, give us options, give us ideas. Hopefully that'll be in place for our next meeting 2 weeks from now. Moving on from that, I think we've covered the nuisance abatement, and it's going to be on Thursday's meeting, correct? Roger?
Anything else?
Yes, I have several things, if you may.
Right ahead.
We talked about the numbers already. I don't think I need to go into that any further. TPI lawsuit, I can't say anything more vigorously than I think that's already been said. I just want it on record. I've had conversations with John and our attorney in private about how vigorously I want him to pursue this. I just want to make it public knowledge that I have been very outspoken with him that this cannot continue to go on. I was in support of not delaying getting served. I thought the sooner the better. We've crossed that hurdle now. Again, I'll just urge you, John, to do everything within your power, within your legal right, to put an end to this sooner than later. It's important that people remember that not only did this pass unanimously through previous town council, it's been in front of judges several times who have also denied that there are claims. Now to come back to say things that are unconstitutional is almost a slap in the face to the entire community. And what needs to not be lost in this is that the community as a whole wants this. That's the most important thing. Not just the judges' renderings, not just the councils, but the community wants this. You heard from everyone in here. I didn't hear one person in here today saying they didn't want to be safe and they didn't think that TPI would help do that. So again, John, please do whatever you can within your power to put an end to this.
Dan, are you saying that you conveyed to Mr. Herron that you wanted him to waive service when he communicated to you?
I said I asked about it, yes. I don't remember exactly what our words were, but my conversations with him were, we need to put an end to this sooner than later.
Again, I want to be absolutely clear, because the suggestion is that I somehow didn't follow through on what was asked of me by the vice mayor to inquire with all of you about waiving of service and accomplishing service as quickly as possible. Conversation that took place with each of you was as follows: and either waive service, as Mr. Brooks has indicated, or at the time I had the conversation with each and every one of you, that Mr. Brooks and I had already spoken, and I had communicated with the mayor as well, that we would make we would accomplish service within the week by making the mayor available. And the mayor and I were communicating with each other every other day to make sure that that he was in fact going to be available. And based upon that conversation I conveyed back to you all, the majority at the time indicated to me that there was not going to be a need to waive service. That's my distinct recollection of those conversations. We are now at a point where obviously Mr. Brooks is not following through with the conversations and the communications I had with him, which are all matter of public record if anyone wants to see them, as well as my communications with each and every one of you to that effect, that we were trying to accomplish that as quickly as possible. Again, the mayor and I were communicating in that regard about every other day. And I was either emailing or calling Mr. Brooks about the same on the issue of service. That said, I can only take action at the request of the council at a public meeting. I can't poll and get direction from council members informally under Florida law. It's illegal. So that is why we're having that conversation now here today.
What you're telling me is even if all 5 of us had said to you, waive service, you couldn't have done it anyway?
No, ma'am.
That
Not
wasn't conveyed to me when we had the discussion, that you were powerless.
I'm sorry if I wasn't clear in that regard.
And if so, we should have held an emergency meeting or something to make sure, because they were obviously just jerking us around and continue to do it.
That's where we are. Unless Mr. Morales has anything additional, and I certainly, then I will ask for the executive session right now.
Fine with me.
All right. Council, in accordance with State Statute 286, I'm hereby requesting a executive session in the case of Christine Patton versus Town of Fort Myers Beach, case number 20CA004453, to take place on 17th, August 17th, 9 a.m. You all to direct me to.
Agree. Is that enough? Is that, do you need it any sooner, John?
And could we meet before the session Thursday?
Well,
or is that too soon?
I don't. That's up to you all. I mean, let me make it absolutely clear to everyone who's listening. It is my policy to defend my clients as vigorously as possible within the parameters of the law with what is ethical, unless my client tells me differently. And I would never do anything less than that for the town of Fort Myers Beach in this case. I have spoken, again, with each one of you all individually about some of the things that we can do in this case. I've also spoken with the attorney representing TPI who want to intervene in this case. So again, that would also be the next step in the process once we accept service, is they would file a notice to intervene, and hopefully the court would timely issue an order to that effect. And then we will sit down and we will begin to defend the town. And there are some very good actual legal arguments that we can make to dispose of this case as quickly and as vigorously as possible. I get it. I understand. You all have been very clear in that respect as to your wishes, and I intend on doing so.
My question wasn't to cast any aspersions. It was just, do you need this guidance any quicker?
I already have in mind personally, and I've conveyed to you all what the steps that we would take, and I'm going to do that before the executive session takes place. As soon as the lawsuit is filed and the motion to intervene is filed, I will begin to coordinate with counsel on filing a motion to dismiss this lawsuit with prejudice. I do believe that there's both actual and legal grounds to dispose of this case as quickly as possible, and we will pursue that.
Is that something that can take place before the 17th, or does it have to happen after the 17th?
Well, we're always subject to the court making itself available to actually conduct the hearing, but working on the pleadings, we'd start immediately prior to the executive session.
I guess the initial question posed is, how soon can we have the executive session?
What's helpful to you? When would you need that? Would it be helpful to you to have that executive sessions guidance earlier in the process, or is that not necessary? I guess that's the question to you. What's helpful for the cause?
We can have it.
Dictated by their schedule.
Clerk. Probably in order to meet the requirements to have a special call meeting, if that's what you all want to do, probably Friday would be the earliest that we could have it.
I'd be in favor of having it as soon as possible.
Support that.
I do too.
We'll,
How long is the process of waiving the service? We've authorized you to waive the service.
that'll be done today. We post the notice this afternoon for the executive session and the special call meeting. We could theoretically have it on Thursday after the M&P.
Right, let's do that.
Perfect.
Good.
Well, I would suggest we do it prior to the
That's fine.
M&P, so we can actually set the date and the time.
At 9
Let us know, we'll be here.
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock and M&P at 10 or whatever.
All right.
You all done, Councilman Allers?
Just two more things, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Before, excuse me, Counselor, just clarification on Counselor Allers' other point. So, obviously, you've got your hands full already, John, with this litigation, but will you be preparing for the M&P meeting a draft of a nuisance abatement ordinance that reflects sort of the desires of the council and the challenges that we face?
Well, I think that.
For discussion purposes?
Yeah, I mean, historically, what has happened with ordinances such as this, either I or staff will provide copies of other jurisdictions, which we've already done. I believe that I've forwarded to each of you at least 4 or maybe 5 versions of a nuisance abatement board from other jurisdictions. They're all pretty much the same. I will work on one to have a draft ready for discussion on Thursday, certainly for the first, but in between now as quickly as possible, if there's a preference. I know that one commissioner has already indicated his preference to me as to the different versions or jurisdictions I've forwarded to you all. If you maybe could get back to me as soon as possible, then I know what to concentrate on.
I know Counselor Allers has been in touch with the Sheriff's Department, and there's been a number of conversations between he and I assume you've gleaned some good information about what would be helpful.
I did, and I've spoken with John about it. The one that I prefer, I think, of the ones that I've read, that has the most teeth that we should maybe build off of is the one that was sent to us from Lee County, the Lee County one.
Okay. Continue, please.
Just like to address some comments that were made at the recent Acreage Advisory Committee about some comments that I made revolving Seafront Park. My comments were that I did not want to be sitting in a park with my daughter and my wife having a picnic and see someone carry their laundry across the park. I feel that was a little misrepresented in the Anchorage Advisory Committee meeting, that I didn't want to see anyone carrying clothes across any parking lot or anything else. And that it visually made at least one of their members very angry about it. He did say he was going to reach out to me. I have to this date not heard from him, or I would have spoken to him directly about it. But I want to be very clear that it's the park that I have an issue with, not the parking lot. I could care less if people carry their laundry through a parking lot to go someplace to wash their laundry. That's what a parking lot is for, is to park and carry your stuff. So I just wanted to make that clear, that I felt that my statement was misrepresented, and I wanted to clear it up for the public record. One last thing I have is I was speaking with some of the businesses around Times Square. In October 1st, there is a huge jump in the outside square footage fee that they're going to be paying. It's about $2.50 a square foot. Based on everything that's happened and everything that's going on, I wanted to speak to the council. I told them that I would bring it up, see if there's any will of the council to potentially postpone that for a little bit, maybe revisit it a little bit, to give them, they're already being told they can't use their entire space, and now they're going to be charged an extra $250 per square foot more of space that they currently can't use. So I did my due diligence. I checked on it, I asked about it, and I told them I would bring it up. If it's something that we can maybe discuss on the M&P meeting, if that's the will of the council to want to discuss it or not discuss it, I just promised that I would bring it up in this meeting.
You have. Anything else? Okay, thank you very much. Does anybody else have anything? Okay.
One thing real quick, Mayor, since we have the sergeant here, I also wondered, outside of the nuisance abatement board, are there any holes in our code, any ordinance that we could pass that would empower the law enforcement to be able to take more assertive action?
It seems to me that is a question better posed to our attorney, but if the well, let's just take that under advisement and let's have them get back with us on that. All right, come on up, Sergeant. Come on up here and answer.
I was actually going to ask if I could refer that to.
There you go. Very good. Okay, we'll table that for now, and we'll address that again. Okay.
Thanks, Sergeant.
Thank you. Just a couple of items for me. I was reminded this weekend with the hurricane that went up the East Coast, albeit not a very strong one that we're used to. But it is a constant reminder that we are at that busy time of year for us, where the storms start rolling off the coast of Africa and start heading our ways. So this year in particular, I think everyone has seen the announcements and so forth in the papers and periodicals and the news and so forth. But everything is further complicated because of the COVID situation. So I want to put this announcement out to particularly our senior citizens, that they have everyone's plan. Have your plan. Plan your work your plan. You know, everybody have a plan every year. It's even more important this year to have your plan ready. There are all sorts of sources where you can find information regarding this. The Red Cross had something sent to us, which was very good. The Lee County Emergency Operations Center can help out. There are other sources that our people can look at. But it's very important this year to have your plan. I don't think there's a lot of people down here that end up in shelters, but that shelter is going to be a whole different animal this year. And but it is important, in light of the virus, that people plan ahead. So I just want to remind everybody that. Now, in regards to the other hot issue of the day here with the Lonnie Kai and the lawsuits and so forth, I agree with Councilman Veach that nuisance abatement board or whatever it's going to be after we get looking at it is another tool in the toolbox to use. I'm not just singling out the Lonnie Kai. It could be used for anybody down at a future date. It's something that's there. And it's something that we can go to and explore this. If we can't get satisfaction from the state, who is supposed to be regulating these businesses, right? That's really who's supposed to be regulating them. If we can't get satisfaction in them, then we'll have to bring it down to our local level and do it ourselves. So I'm all for that. Regarding the lawsuit itself. The service or lack of service, therefore, I'm going to think optimistically that maybe they haven't served us yet because they're still considering whether they're going to follow through on the suit itself. So I will tell you that I've been meeting with the Conadaris family, who I've known for years, and there has been a jolt in this community, not just by us citizens, but also from their family and from their business too. No one wants a murder on your property. No one wants that. No business owner in here wants that. And it's happened. It was a jolt. It's jolted them. It's jolted us. So I see resolutions coming down the road here. I see resolutions. So it's going to take time. That culture wasn't built up over a year or 2 years. It's been built up over 40 years. It's going to take time to change the culture, change the attitudes, and so forth. But it can be done. It can be done. And from conversations I've had thus far, there is a willingness to cooperate in the future. So that's hopefully that's the road we're headed down, and of course we all want the redevelopment down there to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. But, once it does, that's what we've all been waiting for, and that does happen. Lots of other improvements will be happening along with it. So, with that being said, we'll wait and see how things develop here over the next week or so, and I look forward to things in a positive way, and hopefully that's what's going to happen. Okay, that's everybody. Is there anything else for the good of the order here?
One point I just want to make also, Mayor, is that there's a lot of people who are very passionate about this, and when we have 2 officers on the beach, that's 4 eyes. There are a lot more eyes here that can help with the police to know what's going on. Bottom line is, if you see something, say something. The sheriff can't go and enforce things I don't know about. So if anybody who's out there listening, anybody who's here, if you see something, see some activity, let the sheriff know. If you see something that involves, if you see an organization that's over-serving or serving people who shouldn't be served, let the liquor food people know, because that helps the sheriff, and that's something we can do right now.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
One last thing. I didn't want to get ahead of the council in terms of your comments, but I did want to say for the record that Council Eilers had efforts for the Community Outreach Center on the island, and I want you to know that our staff is doing everything it can to expedite that and work with the volunteer team as well as the Sheriff's Office to implement that project. So I myself have met with folks who are on the ground doing that on Friday, and we're trying to do everything we can to expedite their ability to get that building habitable.
Thank you very much. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Moved. Second. Second. Any disagreement? No? Okay, we are adjourned at 11:04. Thereabouts.
Number 4, in the news press. Of course he wants to call you.
Close enough.
Government work?
I'm sorry.
Thanks for bringing
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that.
Yeah, I'm actually with John and Miss Smith. But you're more than welcome to. Them about a very specific issue that I saw with the Lee County ordinance that seems to be